welcome once again to Horror Cult, your channel to the other side, your link to the great beyond, and your listening station for the opinions on horror film from a couple of guys who just watched too many people getting impaled by arrows. That's right. I'm one of your two hosts for this edition, Victor Moreno, along with Kirby Nelson.
We need to talk about Kevin.
No. So in this edition of Horror Cult, well, first off, today we were checking the Instagram. At cultfollowing.co, home of the Cult Following Podcast Network, which is now available on Spotify. Yay! That's right, and we're up to 666 followers.
So metal.
So metal. Blacker than the blackest black times infinity. That's right. There's my explosion. So, thinking of the mark of the beast, we're going to talk a little bit about some of our favorite demonic possession movies. The best parasites, the ones that are religious-based. We need those signs in front of the homestead. Go away with your tracks. We live in Arizona, folks. There's a lot of people here who think they're elders even though they're 14.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm not going to make any more money this episode. Ding! Anyway.
Well, you could climb the watchtower here. You could do that as well.
There we go. So, before we get into the meat of the episode, like I said, we are now available on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts, which is Apple Podcasts, also known as iTunes, and SoundCloud. Anywhere great podcasts are bought and sold.
And YouTube.
And YouTube. YouTube, where, we don't film our podcasts like we do, like you and Speed Review does, but we do make a good job of making it look like the VCR is broken.
That's very true. Many, many scam lines.
Yes. But who knows? Down the line, if we have some guests, maybe we'll start filming. I think we're cool right now. But for the most part, support us at cultfollowing.co. We got a lot of great reviews. But, we really want to get to 1,000 subscribers on our Instagram. We just hit 1,000 on our YouTube channel. So now we can do posts on there, community posts, lots of cool stuff. Once we're going to start running some contests maybe, because we get a lot of great swag here at cultfollowing.co sometimes.
That we do.
Yes. So we want to pass the savings on to you, Get fun steel books, we get screeners, sometimes we get random toys. If you check out the YouTube, actually, I just got a Legion lunch pail yesterday.
I did see that.
Yeah.
You're going to be the coolest kid coming back to school.
Right? You can be the modern day Herman Monster.
That you can.
That's right. So keep your eye out on cultfollowing.co and at cultfollowing.co on Instagram, because we want you to help us cross that finish line with a bloody axe.
It's going to be that or Victor's bathwater, whichever comes first.
Right.
Whoever votes the higher bid there. So, bathwater. Did you miss that recently? That one of the Instagram gamer girls.
Oh, I did see that.
She decided to start selling her bathwater.
Yeah, that's a whole future discussion about that kind of culture on Instagram. But hey,
I think we covered that a little bit in our old man rantage.
Right.
Last episode, but yeah.
Yeah. So before we get into all of that, I should also tell you next week, we'll be some of the cult crew is going to be heading down to San Diego Comic-Con. I'll be down there. Ruby will be down there. Waylon will be down there. And, we'll be meeting up, trying to find cool stuff. A lot of it is going to go up on the website, on the YouTube, on the Instagram. I love how I'm saying it like I'm old man Bill Cosby. We got lots of horror podcasts coming up on the YouTube. Anyway, old man, anyway.
I thought you were just trying to be an influencer and make sure you mention it every 3 minutes that, oh, hey, did you know we have an Instagram and a YouTube? Possibly a TikTok soon. We'll see what happens.
No, we don't do enough lip sync videos.
That's true, we do not.
That's right. But I will say there's a lot of cool horror panels going on at San Diego Comic-Con this year. Going to try to get into as many as we can. A lot of it is up to chance, folks. Try to get into Scary Diego. Right now we are waitlisted, but hopefully we'll get to see some It 2 footage somehow, some way over the rainbow. I don't know. I'm going to try to get into the scary movies to tell in the dark Guillermo del Toro masterclass, which apparently is like an intimate panel of like 100 people or something.
It's so intimate.
We'll see what happens, you know. But and then there's going to be the Shudder Creepshow panel, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that one's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see some more footage and hear some more background on that one, because everything they've kept it pretty under wraps, surprisingly.
Yeah.
They haven't revealed too much yet.
Yeah, they're going to have I think Greg Nicotero is going to be down there. A lot of the people behind the show. Even Adrian Barbeau is going to be there, so that's going to be kind of cool.
And hopefully, speaking of that, hopefully it'll last longer than Swamp Thing and some of the other lost shows here already. That I don't think anything could have been more hype than Twilight Zone, and that one just seems to have completely cooled off.
Well, apparently there's going to be a whole Twilight Zone experience.
Oh, okay, an activation.
It's ticketed, yeah. I don't think. Yeah, we're not going to get into that. It's at Petco Park. That's just. You know, I try to plan these things ahead of time, and I'm just like, you look at the map and go, that's too far. You know?
Yeah, it's pretty much impossible to get around.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Saturday is going to be, is the day when all your Uber rides are like $50. It's like, fuck. You know, sorry, man. We are old pros sometimes at these things, but like, yeah, San Diego is pretty much, if you're in the gas lamp, you're trying to get somewhere on Saturday, you're pretty much fucked. I'm just telling you.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I will also tell you that we're really excited to check out the Bold Voices in Contemporary Horror panel, which was people slept on that panel, dude. It was so good last year. They had like new footage from Mandy. That's her first sort of like saw footage from summer of '84. Tales from the Hood 2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a really good panel. This year they've got. They're promising a lot, so hopefully we will find out some more. I'm hoping we see some stuff on maybe like Satanic Panic or some of the anticipated horror that we've got coming off down the pipeline. We'll see. Knock on wood. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time. Hopefully we'll pick up some fun horror swag. I know TBS is going to be giving out cockroach bars for Snowpiercer.
That's rad.
Yeah, I got to get some of those. I'm just like, that's really fucking clever. Props to them for doing that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they'll be, like I said, we'll do maybe a, fall preview discussion. I actually just picked up Mondo just put out today with Birth Movies Death, their horror fall preview issue.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I'm really excited to check that out. I think that's probably one of the most underrated items on that Mondo offers. All those issues are incredible for like 10, 12, where it's $12. I mean, it's endless. Usually you get a free poster to in it, or, it's kind of like an art print. But for the most part, it's the articles. Really, I read it for the articles. But it really is excellent. Like, I truly think that's one of the best values and stuff, and like mementos, especially if you have a particular love for like a film or a franchise. I mean, they pretty much go all out. It's like the things I wish back in the day when it was just like Starlog and Fangoria and those Cinefantastique and like, but they just didn't have, they had these dedicated issues and they were great and there's a lot of great articles, but it's just kind of like that. Instead of it's like that supermarket drivel, like, just cut and paste listicle articles. I mean, even back in the 80s, it was that, it's actually an in-depth review, like new interviews, new features and thoughts, and so I just enjoy those. Lots of like never before seen pictures or personal on set and stuff like that. So always look forward to those. But yeah, those are that. I mean, the only thing I want, if anyone's going to Comic-Con and wants to really, really make my 40th birthday happen, if you could please pick me up Kang and Kodos Funko. That's
we didn't get picked for the Funko lottery.
Yeah, that's the only one I care about. And of course, Funko is always, their lotteries and all their stuff. It's like, I could care less about 99% of their product. And then they have one awesome item every year. Not just the SDCC, but like in general. And it's always the item that, always sells out, or there's always an issue with it. So, because it's limited to whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
they used to be like 500 or 480, and now they're like getting more into like, okay, we're going to go back to the 240 and the 75. And it's like, I just had that too. Somebody, I tried and a couple friends tried in vain to get me the A24 Midsummer Bear.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually had it in my cart, and the site completely, of course, crashed. I mean, there was just nothing I could do. And there are stories now circulating that it actually wasn't real, that there's arguments that
they
wasn't.
only had 32 for sale.
It was. They said it was 75,
Oh.
and then somebody said it was 32, and then
Yeah.
so who knows? You know, there's the real world and the Mondo world of things, so you never really know 100%. I mean, I can't imagine with that kind of craftsmanship and handmade nature that it was particularly plentiful.
I gotta be honest. Seriously, I feel like that is an easy. That was an easy one to kind of replicate. I mean, the only kind of unique thing about it was the midsummer.
Oh, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, in terms of like, I'm sure someone could do it. It's like, what was he? A while back they did, and I really think he's super talented. Or the individuals who run Serial Resin Co. They make some really great custom figures. I think they're excellent. But like one of the ones they did was Cujo, and it's like, we can get a Saint Bernard ceramic figure, and just add some blood, and it's done. Like, I mean, there's a couple figures sometimes I see, and I'm like, man, I wish I had thought of that to package it up earlier. But that one, I mean, but then they'll put out a figure that's like, they did one for Reverend Lowe from Silver Bullet. It's one of my favorite custom figures I've ever owned. It's beautiful. They also did a great Dr. Decker from Nightbreed and stuff like that. So there's, but I mean, like, that wasn't something like, oh my God, my world's crushed. I didn't get the Midsummer Bear. It's just a bear.
Yeah.
But it was cool though still. And I mean, the Hereditary, Charlie's figures that they gave away at the screens, I mean, it's still one of the ones, but I mean, years ago or last year when they were on eBay for like $60-$80, I still couldn't justify it because it's a promo item. Like, it's swag. I mean, I think you can sell it for a reasonable amount. And I would have happily paid like $40 just to have it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not going to, because they were so limited, but I'm not going to pay you $100, $200. I mean, I'm just slowly moving away from all that in general. So if I can get it, easy. But I won't pay double, triple prices for any of this stuff anymore.
Well, hopefully as we continue to grow, we'll, start getting some more of those kind of like promo items. And such.
Well, who knows?
All it is just like getting in good with them, the powers that be.
The powers that be. I know it's the summer and you just had a trip to Camp Arawak.
Yeah, we what was it, like just a few days ago? We did,
Tuesday, right?
Yeah,
Terror
we
Tuesday.
did a sold-out screening of Sleepaway Camp over at the Alamo Draft House in Tempe, which was a lot of fun. Originally, we were going to have Karen Fields there, plays Judy, who's really like the villain of the movie. I've heard.
So good.
She's so good. But she sent like a nice care package with like a ton of autograph pictures, so we like gave them all out. Like, she was cool enough that each picture had a different like, inscription. Like chicken shit. Flat as a board, needs a screw. It made it fun interacting with the crowd, and then we got a bunch of like fuck off stickers. She said, so it's nice to see when people embrace that. And she lives in Flagstaff, which isn't like super far from here either. So maybe in the future.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely one of my favorite villains of the 80s by far. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting because like I think that's one of those movies a lot of people see, like just on DVD or something. Seeing it with a crowd is a really fun experience, especially a crowd that was as packed as that, because everyone was just like laughing. It is an entirely, if you've seen Sleepaway Camp, I mean, or if you haven't, rather, it's one of those movies that just like kind of boggles the mind how something like that gets made.
They did a
documentary.
There's a documentary. There's documentaries and stuff. I mean, there's also the Dan Dufflin who runs the sleepawaycampmovies.com site. He's been around since like the Anchor Bay Red Cross set.
Yeah.
He's like, it's kind of like, I think that's the one I'm thinking of, or is that the guy who runs the It's Me Billy? There's two of them. The one who runs the Black Christmas site is the other guy who's like the super fan.
Yeah.
But they're both, I think Sleepaway Camp, like I said, the more time, the more I've watched it over the years and stuff, like obviously, and I keep it, I'm always good. I never spoil the ending, of course. It has one of the most famous. I went out of my way
not to spoil it,
but
there are a lot of people who hadn't seen it.
And and people think that that's the craziest like twist of all time. And it's like, I don't even think that. It's the what I really think of the movie in the end is that some of the fan theories and some of the ideas that are unresolved in the script, are much better and darker than anything that happens. But it's a mean movie. It's funny. It's so funny because the kids are so brutal. Yeah. And that's another thing. Of course, this movie was actual kids. They were all between like 12 and 16. Yeah. So they were not like, 28, the CW or WB or whatever with the, I'm 32. Even
though it looks like that, I always say,
but they're not.
They're not. It's always that thing when you're watching teens in the 80s or 70s. I'm like, man, they just had so much harder lives than we did.
Yes, they did. The ones, well, especially some of those people you see now, and it's like, woo, yeah, you really paid for it down the line. Because, and again, I always have to preface that by saying I'm not trying to be mean. I'm saying that it is, some of these people had other issues in their lives, but it really is like unbelievable to see some people the way they look now. Sorry, had a little bit of headphone malfunction there.
Oh, it happens. Just try flipping it around.
Yeah, I got it now. Yeah. It's good. But yeah, no, I think Sleepaway Camp though is seriously a black comedy as well. It's just so funny.
I feel like that's the way I kind of take it. When I was doing my intro, I said like, I don't think it has the craziest twist of all time. I think Happy Birthday to Me probably fares better there in my mind. I think the reason Sleepaway Camp has like that sort of power is primarily because you think there's one twist and then it turns out to be something completely different. And then, and then just hearing people's theories when they come out, it was surprising to me. Like, I had like 3 different people like, oh, well, clearly the ant was a man, Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, and like she had an Adam's apple and she had man hands, so it was probably like this like weird incestuous thing about gender, and I'm like, I have never heard that before. That is really interesting just to see like different people's perspective on things, because like I never even pay attention to the ant's hands or anything like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a definitely a gender studies course in the 2019 for a 1983 movie, but the movie was way ahead of its time, obviously, in every single way.
Oh man, that movie also has a really casual attitude toward child molestation.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
James Earl Jones' father, he just didn't stop it.
Right.
That's my favorite part.
Well, and then like Mel, who clearly has a thing for like Meg, who's like what, 15 or something?
Probably.
Yeah. I got a date with like a 80-year-old man. Folks, if you want to watch Sleepaway Camp, you can get it on the Shout Factory channel on Roku or most smart TVs and watch it for free. I also think it's really funny whenever you watch Sleepaway Camp, the way it's edited, it looks like a TV movie.
That's true. And I'm sorry, I made sure to look it up because I want to credit people, because this guy's done a lot of work. It's Jeff Hayes is the guy who runs Sleepaway Camp movies, and then Dan, the guy who runs It's Me Billy, the Black Christmas tribute site. But if you ever want to talk about like true uber fans of slasher films or any film genre, I really don't think there's so directly involved with the films and the franchise and the fandom. It's just insane. But yeah, I think Sleepaway Camp, it's one of those movies where it did things that were unconventional. It had an orchestral score. It had like I said, a very comedic tone, and then a very dark tone. And it's just balls out. Like the deaths are crazy. I don't even know how to describe it to somebody, but it is one of those, that's the one thing I will say is a movie to be watched with other people, especially if they've never seen it before. It's the most fun. I put it akin a lot to like the big monoliths like Friday the 13th, which is a really fun film to see, especially with people who've never seen it before. But like, I think because Friday the 13th and a lot of those films are so oversaturated, I would much rather watch Sleepaway Camp. I know you're showing The Burning as well soon. The Burning is another one that I just have so much fun with. But there's just, I don't know, slashers are always, it's just something I have a huge soft spot for, obviously, especially from the 80s. But it's just one Sleepaway Camp is pretty much a flawless film. It is a what the fuck movie in every respect, but it's flawless in the sense of what they did for so little.
I mean, I've seen movies that have a bigger budget than this made now that look 10,000 times cheaper than this movie.
Oh yeah, well now movies I can't even believe are like, I'm like, how can whatever? What was the one? Unsane, where it's allegedly shot on an iPhone. Yeah, but I'm going, even that, it's like, no matter which way you look at it, I'm like, but you look at films shot in 16 millimeter, blown up to 35, and they look so much better than movies now. I don't know. There's, obviously a lot of contributing factors and stuff, but I think no matter what you're going to make or how you're going to make it, it's just, it really is. I mean, you have to know what you're doing. And Hiltzman, the guy who made Sleepaway Camp, the director, he just really knew what
Robert Litz or something.
Isn't that what Hiltzman? I thought that's what it was. I'm really just bad with names on this one today. But well, it's too many to remember. There's my old man rant. Too many to remember now.
Honestly, folks, I think you'd much rather us having a conversation than being one of those. Let's look everything up on Wikipedia or
Hiltzik.
Yeah, I was close.
You were very close. But we're never going to be that.
Yeah.
But I always like to be at least somewhat accurate, and I like to give credit to those, like I said, to those individuals and entities that really made something. And Sleepaway Camp, it's just one of those films. I mean, and I really do enjoy the sequels, especially the second one as well. But I really...
It was so funny, though, because like I was talking about in the intro, it's like, the iconic cover of Sleepaway Camp 2, and it's like, great cover, but God, I don't like that movie. Literally, everyone started cheering.
Yeah. See, I like it. I've always enjoyed it. I really do like the 3, not as much, but the second one, it went full black comedy, and I
think maybe that's why.
Yeah. And it's fun.
The trailer for it is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great trailer. It's a great cover. It's a great, to me, it's a great movie. But again, it's one of those films where, I always enjoy it. I just think Sleepaway Camp is great. They did return to Sleepaway Camp, and I just feel it's one of those things where he came back, Hiltzik, and they just couldn't. You just can't replicate it. It's just with a lot of these franchises, obviously they try to do that.
Well, it's almost like a Room scenario. Like when you're earnestly trying to make a movie, it kind of shows, and then when you're leaning into what reaction people give to that product, then it's kind of fake, I think that's probably why the overt comedy in part 2 is sort of obnoxious to me.
Yeah, I got you. But I mean, the thing with part 2 is they were trying to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And obviously the director has vision, and I just think at the time, it's just a good time capsule of what that kind of... I think that people, obviously Sleepaway Camp is... I much prefer Sleepaway Camp to Sleepaway Camp 2 or 3. But I think that it's its own thing. It's one of those films that it's, the franchise name or whatever is always going to, it's what helps it and it's what hinders it. Because then people go, why isn't this movie like whatever? And it's, we just talked about Return of the Living Dead, and some people really hate Return of the Living Dead 2. And I think Return of the Living Dead 2 is kind of almost like a Sleepaway Camp 2. It's just more of a straight comedy, dark comedy. And then part 3 is in like Return of the Living Dead 3 is like a incredibly dark movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bleak, and I personally love that one too. I think it's I don't try to get too. I mean, obviously, I can compare movies. I'm sure we're gonna, as we dip into our possession discussion, we're gonna get into a lot of the franchises and trilogies and quadrilogies and whatever level some of these films have gotten up to. But I think it's I think also it's important to take it on its own and not just with its name brand recognition. So it's here nor there. In the end, it's all just opinion, of course. I mean, as is the nature, especially of the podcast business and the horror
right.
community. But I really, I don't know. It's just one of those ones. I mean, it's very funny that how big of slasher cycle boom always ends up happening. That not just in like the post Scream era and stuff, but I mean, all the time, like people get back into slashers. That people always enjoy them. It's such a party movie. It's there's such a academic and almost literary level on them. But it's like I think it just kind of comes and goes. But then somebody will be like, "Oh, I've never seen The Prowler," and I'm like, "You've never seen The Prowler?" Like, I mean, I consider that like a top 10, top 15 one to watch, but people never have.
Well, I mean, I think that goes along the line of, a lot of people who are just like getting into horror, just kind of.
Yeah, I didn't mean as like any kind of elitist or any of that kind of statement, but it's just one of those ones where
I think it comes to availability too.
Sure, but that one's really widely available too. I mean, it's one you can easily find still. It never went up like the Blue Underground release or whatever. Where it was Rosemary's Killer overseas and stuff. It's even more
well, I mean, I guess
popular.
I said in a way like like when Scream Factory releases something and there's like some kind of a premium package around it, suddenly it seems there's a much bigger fandom for that film.
I agree.
It's like in the last month I've heard more people talk about Night of the Creeps than I've had in the last 3 years.
Oh yeah.
I think, and that's what it comes down to, not so much elitism. It's like, what's like the buzz?
Yeah, but that's also, I think most people I have a huge Fred Dekker fandom. I think House and Night of the Creeps are, some of my favorite movies. But it's also one of those. It's something I grew up with, or I didn't see Night of the Creeps actually until I was older. But House I loved since I was a kid, and it's one of those films I always loved. But you're right. I mean, I can't deny the whole, but I think that also has to do with the weird hipster kind of stuff with like, I have an Atkins action figure, and it's like Tom Atkins does rule, and it's awesome that he has an action figure. I'm extremely happy about it, but I think it's just the weird, like some things are like, there's great actors and great people. Like right now there's this weird, the whole Keanu Reeves thing is like the biggest thing in the world. It's like the way it was Nick Cage last year with Mandy and all that. I think Nicolas Cage is great. I think Keanu Reeves is great. I always enjoyed their work. I don't think everything was great or perfect, but I think it's also just like a cult of personality and like you said, like an it moment. It just becomes, it's a meme thing.
I think a lot of it is just like the combination of factors too. Like, for example, Scream Factory partnering with NECA to do the Tom Atkins figure, right? Just like they did with the Night of the Demons one. Both of those are like really hard to find now.
And Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah, and like at the San Diego Comic-Con this year, Scream Factory has an exclusive where if you like pre-order the Howling, they have a Howling statue that they did with like Sideshow Collectibles.
No, PCS.
Pop Culture.
Yeah, Pop Culture Shock.
Yeah.
Who used to be? It's the guys who used to be on Soda Toys. Yeah,
and that has not gotten anywhere near as much buzz as when NECA does it, because NECA is a much bigger thing than PCS is. And I'm like, that's not a diss on PCS. I want to support PCS every once in a while. They're like, we're going to do like Thing action figures. I saw those prototypes for them for like 5 years in a row at Monster Palooza, and they never came out.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing everybody said when the Howling figures showed up, it's like, it's the wrong color. I mean, it is. It's a statue. They're trying to do it at a mass market level. it's not going to get the kind of
Well, they
job.
did a super high end, statue of it, like $800,000 one. That's a perfect replica.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like that they're doing them in PVC. I like that they're getting down to a lower price point and stuff. I mean, that's something I feel strongly about. It's like, not just because I'm really not a big fan of statues because of their fragility and the high price point for something. I mean, like I said, I appreciate the detail. It's like a plus minus thing.
Yeah.
But my big thing with it's not a great one. I also think The Howling, it's another movie that Shout Factory's re-released.
Yeah.
And it's another one where they just... It's a cool statue. You can buy the statue on its own. You want the bloody variant, you gotta get through SDCC. And, here nor there. But you're right, 100% that partnering with NECA, a really respected manufacturer that's going to deliver. And they all have been high-quality products. Like, they look amazing, and they are amazing. And it's one of those things where people, it's like you don't miss the boat. It's like I didn't own the Green Inferno at all, so I bought the Blu-ray on it because I got the Eli Roth signed slipcover.
Yeah.
And then I get the poster. So it's like for $25-$30, it's like it justifies everything. I don't own it. I get signed, by one of pretty big director and stuff, and they finally got it right. I actually just got a bunch of orders. I got the Entity, Night of the Creeps, and a few other ones from Shout Factory, and they finally did it right. They rolled their posters with a
the U-line thing.
No,
the triangle box.
No, sorry, the thing is evading me. I almost said napkin holder. The tight paper ring around it to keep it in place, because I've had somewhere around 40 damaged posters, and I didn't even know they were damaged because I don't open my stuff. I mean, I don't have room to display these posters, and Shout Factory and I had it out for like months, and then they finally sent me replacements for everything. But it's a situation where I was like, oh, it's too bad you couldn't have done this back with the other ones. Because they had employees who didn't know how to do traditional hand rolling and finger rolling on the prints, and so they were all getting damaged. They're all damaged. They all had somehow I had tears and crinkles, and it's like, you guys just don't know how to do this, and they finally got it right. They also put pictures on the tubes now of what the print looks like, so that you can remember exactly which one it is, because before I was having to write it on each of them.
Oh, that's obnoxious.
It's very obnoxious and annoying. So I would say, and I didn't even suggest any of that stuff when I was yelling at them. They finally just got it right. I'm sure other people did the work for me.
I think part of it is like, when you're trying to get into that, like, the Mondo kind of market, you got to step your shit up.
You do.
Yeah.
I think you do. But I also think, I also didn't mind when the posters were folded, to be totally honest. I like them rolled, of course. I prefer to have an unmarred. The only time I want the folded is because of the traditional way in which they were shipped, and I mean, it shows the authenticity and stuff like that, and I personally like the look. But overall, it's just one of those situations where I don't know, they finally got right. But it's true, the tchotchke, as we kind of go back to that thing with Hereditary and all these other things in Midsummer, it's like your tchotchke oriented items and stuff. I mean, some are really cool and some are just flipper garbage.
Yeah.
And that's always the way it's going to be.
I think that's part of the reason I'm a little, disappointed about San Diego this year, because there's not really all that much stuff that I want to get. There's oh, that looks cool. Not like last year when it had I need to get this turtle box set type thing. Mm-hmm. This year there's one with Shredder, and I'm like,
Yeah. Well, those are nice. I mean, the turtle set was nice too, but there was also, it's one of those things where, there's a huge fan base for this. I mean, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan base is huge, but I also think it's one of those things too most of this stuff is driven when people say why don't you like speculators and flippers and stuff? As I go, because I'm a fan and I like this stuff, and even if I'm not a fan, I want fans to have it at a fair price. Now, I don't expect every item. Things are going to be limited. Things are going to sell out, and you might have to pay a premium for them, and some people are willing to do that. But I also think there's absolutely no reason that you should be paying 3, 4, 5, 10 times as much for an item, just because of people who are just shitty.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, whatever. I mean, people want to look at it some way. I'm like, I'm just going to call you out for your shit. It's just genuinely like pretty much a dumpster human being, because people go, oh, I mean, there's something different with sitting on something for years or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the market changing. If you have whatever 10 of those Atkins action figures, and that's whatever, and you sit on them, and in 5 years they're worth $500. They're worth $500. That's just the market. I'm not at all upset with the market. I'm upset with people trying to make the market. That bothers me. So, it is what it is, as always. But I don't know. But I mean, SDCC, I mean, it looks like it's always a fun show and stuff. I mean, I'm just glad they're instead of trying to do all the tent poles now, because like they're focusing on smaller parties, but more importantly, just like Phoenix Comic Con and a lot of events, is that I just feel, horror is the pop culture whipping boy. It's always usually the lowest rung on the ladder, unless it's because there's a popular property there. There's a Walking Dead, or there's whatever it is.
Yeah.
And even though most of those don't even make it, I really can't think of anything. I look at all those shows that could consider to have a horror or gothic aesthetic of the last few years: The Exorcist, Sleepy Hollow, Penny Dreadful, whatever, and they all pretty much went away. I mean, it was like a flash in the pan.
That's interesting. I mean, like it's hard, I think, to sustain like what you get in a horror movie and a television show, because at some point it's just going to become either a melodrama or an action series.
True.
I mean, that's like a good, I guess, segue to get into like our main topic.
Sure. Unless there's anything else you
absolutely
have
honestly,
to discuss.
Like I said, the main stuff I'm looking forward to at San Diego aren't even like stuff like I want to go to Super 7's Bodega, which isn't even near the convention center. Well, it's like 15 minutes away, just so I can get the Garbage Pail Kids Universal Monsters cards. They're an exclusive. You can't even get those at the show. So it's like sometimes the cool stuff isn't even at the show.
Is that one per person, or can I
don't know what the deal is
there's
yet.
A pack. You paid, found me. Yeah, Garbage Pail Kids, just quiz. Victor's an artist and stuff, but also, in case anyone didn't know that's listening, Victor contributes sketch cards to, he has for the last few series.
Yeah.
But, and will be for, of course, the best set, the horror set, the Horribles coming out here in the fall, of course.
Yeah, in September.
Yep. So, ready for Halloween, but, I am blown away when I went to FYE a couple weeks ago and saw the whole display they have with the cereal and all the items. Joe Simcoe did a great job as always on the art, and it looks amazing. And everybody else who contributed, I mean, all the usual greats, Brent Engstrom, and I'm sure David Gross and Neil Cameron, a lot of the other folks there. Jeff Zapata, of course, the other biggie. But they yeah, I mean, they've been doing a lot of great stuff. They just got, I've heard that's going to be one of those next Mondo Misfit things is going to be GPK, apparently.
Oh, what?
Those, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of them off the top of the head. They just did the ones for like Jason and the Gremlin.
Oh, the Mondoids.
Mondoids. Oh, yeah. I said Misfits. Mondoids, yeah. I heard that GPK is going to...
ripoffs.
Yeah, that GPK is going to be one of the next ones. So, excited for that.
And see, and that's the thing. Like, I'll just go to take pictures of their booth, because everything that's coming out next year, Mondo and Neck are going to have at their booths.
Yeah. So lots to look forward to.
Yep.
But now it's time to be possessed.
Yeah. So, sometimes we get screeners and stuff, and one of the big movies at Fantastic Fest last year was this movie called Lose. It was directed by a first-time director named Tillman Singer, and I got a screener link to see it. So I'll have a review of that on Cult Following next week. But it's just really interesting because, like, I'm watching it and it's like, it's like a really interesting movie. It's kind of like a cross between like both versions of Suspiria and Exorcist 2: The Heretic with a dose of the Beyond.
Oh. Interesting.
It's an
interesting blend.
soup. Yeah. So, but it kind of works. I mean, it's a little slow paced, but yeah, I dug it. You know, it just takes a minute to get into it. You know, phonetic Spanish has always been sound stupid to me. That's my one, knock on it. But hey, it works. But it got me thinking. Like possession movies are always like just there's always a really interesting slant to them because it can be used in so many different ways, kind of like talk about culture, talk about religion, just even like society in general, because it doesn't just have to be like religious possession. It can be something like The Hidden, where it's like commenting on kind of that culture of excess in the 80s,
sure,
sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of thing. Or even you can just be like straight up like horror comedy, something like Slither,
Yeah, it can be something too. Like I always look at things like a chosen possession, like a Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
And obviously I like the idea of possession.
Guys, I'm a little under the weather.
Possession as a tool of revenge and stuff like that for various ideals. I mean, and it's very far-reaching because it is one of those genres that's very malleable, that you can really put it into so many different, not only mixed genres or subgenres like you were saying, but I mean, it always seems to have the religious aspect, but in the end, I mean, I think that the Lovecraft, idea of the fear of the unknown, is the greatest fear, and it is. And I think possession, I think people fear the unknown, but I think what they really fear, I mean, I think what most people's major fear is is loss of freedom and loss of control. I think that's what is aging. I think that's obviously the fear of death, the fear of like loss of finances or being homeless or whatever. I mean, real world fears, but in films that can, be translated, and people can, it can be, like I said, something very storybook or supernatural, and, it's whatever. But I think there's also, it's a weird thing. It's stretching. You can stretch it. Like you can say Hellraiser is a possession movie.
Yeah.
Another like chosen possession movie. It just depends on which way you want to look at it.
Well, I mean, yeah, to a certain degree, like it becomes a little possession when like Frank takes what's his name, Skin.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It just possesses his identity, because like that's like one way of looking at it. Like I was thinking of something like a single white female, or when you like literally you're on somebody so much that you just want to get under their skin and become them. It's just kind of freaky that way, But and then it's like, I mean, that's kind of a little bit of what happens like towards the end of Exorcist 2, The Heretic, when like Pazuzu becomes like sexed up Reagan,
Such unholy thoughts about a 15-year-old Linda Blair, but hey, it was the 70s. If Rick Springfield can do it and actually did it, then I can too. No, it's it really is one of those things. Well, yeah, it's a possession, obsession. It's the absolute, like I said, surrender. And that's, I mean, like some people obviously in the possession films fight it, some don't. Some, become awash with regret or whatever. I just, it's a very visceral and literal thing. And then it's also, like I said, it could be endlessly expounded upon. For me, I don't think it has to be the religious, or the classic demonic. But I think, that's usually what works best. But it's also one of the most tired genres. We just spoke in the last episode on zombies, which is, always trying to find fresh blood, no pun intended, or fresh brains, truly, in the writing department. And then I also think that possession movies have, there's some who've really tried to break through, like the formulaic, like one that could be argued as a possession movie that I really enjoyed was Autopsy of
Dude,
Jane Doe.
I was just about to say that.
It's like,
yeah,
it's a great one.
Yeah, because it's about the possession of an object to a certain degree.
And it's a story that is very much unraveled. It's a long, like a slow burn in terms of exactly understanding what's happening. There's people who go, I knew what was going on right from the first few minutes. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
It's like you don't know what's going on. But that's what makes you truly more frightened. What evokes fear is that when you don't know what's going on, it goes back to the fear of the unknown thing. And when you really, if you have sympathetic characters or a good story, and you can put yourself in, which like Autopsy of Jane Doe has, you want those guys to be okay. They didn't do anything wrong, yet they're being horribly punished. And when you find out what it's for, why, it becomes like that's where you really think about it after the credits roll.
Yeah. No, and that's just like one of those things because, like, I also you just taking it a different direction than that. Like, one of my favorite, like, quote unquote possession movies is The Beyond.
Sure.
Which, if you are not familiar with Lucio Fulci's Gates of Hell trilogy, it's like The Beyond, The House by the Cemetery,
and City of the Living Dead.
Basically, like, all these places of powers essentially that are associated with hell mouths. And The Beyond, I think, is probably like...
Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Was, one of, like, Fulci's, I think, more personal films, maybe besides Cat in the Brain, but...
The ultimate personal film.
Right. Where, like, he was saying something about, like, this is, like, the atheist view of, like, the supernatural or whatnot of an afterlife. And they still forced him to put zombies in there, which thankfully are really downplayed. But when people are killed in the Beyond, or it's just like, it's usually the force of, like, the demonic strength or the Book of Ibon pushing its will towards killing people and then, like, taking on control of their forms to kind of get people sucked into that abyss that is the Beyond, Oh
yeah, it's a possession. It really is the definition of it. And that's another film with an ending where, that's funny, like the atheist view of hell and stuff. But that's actually what I always loved about Hellbound, Hellraiser 2.
Yeah.
People always ask you, well, like, what do you think of the, like, hell? And they said, well, if you want to look at it in an Abrahamic view or even maybe in an atheist view, I don't know how you want to look. I mean, a cold labyrinth, never ending. If you consider hell as like a punishment,
right,
then the worst thing you could be experiencing is all your regrets and being haunted your whole life, like your whole afterlife. I mean, it's pretty awful when you think about it. Being tormented, like I said, it's not the cartoon devil pitchfork, right, or these very Looney Tunes kind of look of hell. I mean, it's very empty. Exquisitely empty, but it's also undeniably painful, true pain, not just the surface pain, not just the nerve endings, but just that I don't know how you put it other than like loss of your soul, loss of your spirit, your will. It's horrible. I mean, like I said, you don't have to be religious or moral or something, but I would, if people go, well, there's nothing after. It's like, well, that's one way to look at it. But I said, if there is, but people always go, well, there's nothing after for, anyone. That's like anybody who does something awful. It's kind of like, well, you don't think there's, I don't know. I don't mean I'd like to turn into a religious discussion, but honestly, I think it's an interesting idea. That seems
like much more of like, of a real punishment than having to play your regrets on rewind forever and ever.
Well, you also, the idea of just being alone forever, in an eternal, like, whatever it is, wandering, or I don't know. I mean, like I say, it's very reticent to say anything morally. When I say something about that, like, I mean, like, people who go, what's, for criminals or people who do awful things or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, what's their punishment? If it's not in this world, will it be in the next? And it's kind of like, yeah, but that's why people sympathize with possession movies so much, is because it's people who didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. Like The Exorcist. I mean, it's my favorite film, and a big part of one of the questions always posed or essays written, etc., is what did Reagan do? And it's like, there's questions. Was it the Ouija board? Yeah. I'm talking things from the film. Was it her parents' divorce that she thought she caused it, that allowed Captain Howdy / Pazuzu to come in, because it's not explicitly stated. I always like when people get into that, and it's like, okay, there's the statue of Pazuzu. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it's Pazuzu. And he's like, well, they say he's the devil. And it's like, okay, it's one of those, that's my hell, is the eternal argument about that. But I mean that it's really is, why did this innocent girl suffer so horribly?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that thing upstairs is not my daughter. That's what it is, though.
Well, I mean, I think we can get into it a little bit. I always assumed it was a lot of it comes down to Linda Blair's performance. Being like this innocent, and she takes on the guilt of the divorce, and then you always look at Ouija boards as like a crack in there's something. It's an opportunity. Mm-hmm. For something from another world to take hold. I mean, I think a good reconciliation for this is you could always argue that the names people give demons aren't really reflective of what they actually are. If the North Africans thought the devil had never heard of a Judeo-Christian construct,
sure,
maybe their devil was Pazuzu or whatnot, or the Babylonian, whatever
Assyrian, Babylonian, Mesopotamian stuff. I mean, all those things. It's like thinking of Cohen makes Quetzalcoatl. He makes an Aztec. You make Aztec, Olmec, Mayan. These Mesoamerican cultures where your gods look like your devils, and they're Judeo-Christian. But that's just, whatever.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, even Warner Brothers has not been a good steward about the origins of Pazuzu. I mean, in Exorcist 2, it's, baby James Earl Jones Kakumu, and then in Pick Your Prequel, it's different there too,
Well, you don't want to blame the locusts. I mean, it's just like, there's so much stuff with The Exorcist 2, but I mean, I've watched both cuts numerous times. I mean, John Borman obviously recut it. He recut it so many times, and it's a film that has some interesting ideas. And some eerie stuff. A great score. Linda Blair actually really does. She was one of those actresses. I always wonder, it's those classic comic book what ifs. If she had won the Academy Award instead of Tatum O'Neal for Paper Moon, what a difference her life and career would have been. I mean, we wouldn't have gotten Hell Night and Grotesque and other low budget favorites or Repossessed, but she's one of those people. She really is a great actress, and she was very, very talented, and I mean, she didn't do that performance alone. I mean, Eileen Dietz and other people were involved, but I mean, for being her age, it's one of those phenomenal performances, especially back then. I mean, kids just didn't, nowadays I think kids are so trained, they can watch everything.
Right.
It's like you go to the best acting school, your best stage school for those across the pond. But, it's like, I really think she delivered it. It's, I mean, if people were to ask me my ultimate Oscar robberies of the last few years, or last 40, 50 years, I mean, I put that one in. Honestly, people go, oh, that's too fresh to be saying that, but I mean, I really mean it. I think when Toni Collette lost, or when Toni Collette didn't even receive anything, she should have won Best Actress. She wasn't even nominated. She really is. I mean, that's how obsessed I almost think she was nominated.
Oh, no. I like the actress that won Best Actress this year. From she's always been a good genre actress when she was in Hot Fuzz and Doctor Who. I can't remember her name off the top of
Well,
my
that's
head.
always a great sign,
And
too.
unfortunately, I think the favorite is going to be like the least remembered of Yorgos Lanthimos' movies by me.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
but I just
it's like modern Barry Lyndon. How many people talk about Barry Lyndon? Yep,
it's true. Well, I mean, and I mean, it's even that's another one. Like maybe the reason I love Hereditary so much is it's a possession movie. It's a Lovecraftian film. It really is. People always talk about The Void. They're like, that's such a Lovecraft movie, and I was like, more Hellraiser or Reanimator to me than Lovecraft. I mean, even though Reanimator is Lovecraft, I mean, I just feel like the tropes. Though, how about this? The Empire Full Moon version of Lovecraft. That's why Dagon is so much better.
And that's the thing. Like, I want my Lovecraft to have like this weird like edge of insanity thing. That's why I like Dagon. It's just like that movie doesn't function like a real movie. It has this really bizarre like. No one in this movie acts like a real human being would act, but it's like that's like a Looney Tunes scenario, so it works.
Well, the Shadow over Innsmouth is, I mean, it's not quite the old dark house, but it is the classic idea of, it's just it's a trope. But I mean, the Shadow over Innsmouth is always going to be my favorite Lovecraft story. It always has been. It's received several treatments over the years, but Dagon, of course, being the best amalgam of them. But I mean, that's what I mean. Like when I speak of possession and stuff, to me is possession that's very frightening is also the familial, the unavoidable, inevitable.
Yeah.
When you're that, I mean, even when I saw Midsummer, it's not a possession movie in the traditional sense, but it's a possession movie in terms of how this group, this culture, influences these people who come into it.
Yeah.
Some of them become very possessed by it. It's like, I know I don't mean to put that too far reaching, but again, it's like
not a literal thing like the Evil Dead movies.
Yeah, well, that was the other one. We can harken back, especially when we're talking about the Beyond.
Yeah,
it's to me is like the Evil Dead is one of those movies where it's possession treated as humorous. I mean, it is possession, demonic possession movie interpreted by the Three Stooges, of course.
Yeah,
and through that filter.
I do think it like varies. I mean, I kind of feel like, because all those movies are like the same movie, just with different spins.
Sure.
And it's like, to a certain degree, Evil Dead, the original, is the most fucked up because it's actively trying to drive Ash insane. And
killing all of his friends in the process and turning them against him.
And just doing it very malevolently. Even the Evil Dead remake, which doesn't get a lot of love, but it's just super fucking dark with the possessions in that movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's one of the better... I think it's one of those films down the line that people are going to say, the remake and stuff, that they are... wow, that was a great movie. I mean, it's already been 6 years. I've seen it creeping in, but I just feel like, I mean, that one just goes as full throttle as you possibly could, and does it in a way where the one thing I always liked, the one thing they changed was the idea of it being somebody in an intervention, an addiction. Yeah. So someone who's already so sick and weak, they're primed for possession.
Yeah. Well, I honestly think that intro, the cold open with the girl who'd been possessed, but
not cult, but the Appalachian kind of
the
folklore.
Father, they killed the mother, and then they're trying to exorcise her. Like, I don't think that adds anything to the movie at all.
I never liked
cut
it.
Out and just started immediately where it does after it says Evil Dead. It would have been a much stronger movie.
Agreed, 100%. That's I think one of its biggest flaws. That, and the only other thing I will always despise is, like, when you watch the original Evil Dead, I mean, the Necronomicon is a piece of art. I mean, it's beautiful. Like,
oh yeah,
and then in the 2013, it's literally like everything's in English, and it's not like he sits there for a second and it dissolves into English so he can read it or something like that, like a visual element. It's that you can tell if the possession is seeping in, the evil is entering. It's that kind of thing. It's literally like like the way it almost like a deathgasm kind of joke or something. Like this should be. That was just always such a failure, especially because the book itself outside of it looks great. I love the idea of the barbed wire and all that. I thought that was cool. And then when you actually opened the book, I was like, God, man, how could you fuck this up so bad? I think
the problem with it, too, is it hadn't been that long since Cabin in the Woods. And it really suffered from, like, this is every trope that movie is talking about. There's not anything wrong with using tropes. It's just, like, it was just too fresh on people's minds.
I agree. It was. It really was. Well, and Cabin in the Woods, too, is always one of those films, I always forget, how many... I mean, if it had come out in its actual year, of
like
creation, 9, I think it was. Yeah. But I don't know. Like Possession, too. I mean, you kind of, there's... I think it's always going to be one of those things where it's like Exorcist clones, or things that people consider like Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Right.
But I thought, like, the last Exorcism, I personally thought was great. A lot of people didn't like it or the sequel, and I thought they were both excellent. I like the idea of something like that. It was, I know found footage isn't your top pick, but I just trying something different. I mean, I like the Exorcism of Emily Rose because it was a court drama. It really wasn't wasn't supposed to be a traditional horror film. It was supposed to be heavily about the legal wranglings of everything. And I think that's where the Possession film, will succeed more, but it's also the idea of something like you were saying, like something from a different culture, or that's what helps make films. So, I mean, like Loose and stuff like that. Like, I think it's important to have how people interpret things like this. I mean, and how much historically it was looked at, like possession as mental illness. It's like a lycanthropy or something like that. I like the idea of people, instead of being something supernatural, that's probably one of the best parts about The Exorcist. I mean, you're talking about the early 1970s where, you have, what is it? All these ideas, the primal scream versus Dr. Spock versus, how you raise your kids, how you deal with stress and problems. I mean, this is issues with the economy. I mean, things were changing so rapidly in the 70s.
And that's like one of those things, like, I mean, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, exactly.
78 version really takes on that. And you're like, really? You're talking about I'm like, alien possession is the exact same thing as this. It's a way of dealing with issues of society. And those pods literally creep under your skin and take you over and become you, and it's like, I mean, that's not my wife. That's, that movie's really creepy on that level. It's like
very
this whole
much.
thing about existential dread. I still think one of the most disturbing scenes you'll see is in the 93 Abel Ferreira Body Snatchers remake, when it has the Air Force captain, or Tim, whatever, he's trying to rescue Gabrielle Anwar's character, and he goes into this like essentially like birthing room where they're like bringing in people, they like sedate and just kind of automate the process. He's trying to rescue the girl, and her pod wakes up, and he's about to pull like the tendrils off of her, and then like literally she like just churns on her side, and she's like, "Don't," like this really weird like psychosexual thing, like you're attracted to her, and there's this weird tension going on because she's much like younger than him. And it's like, well, all you want is her body anyway. There it is for the taking. It's just one of those things that's always kind of stuck with me. Like, that's a really interesting scene for a lot of like subtextual reasons, Yeah, that's right, guys. I go deep into these things.
Well, no, it's something you can go... Well, I mean, even when you're talking about the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it's kind of going back to what I was talking about. It's like, possession isn't just you being possessed. It's everyone else is possessed, and I'm completely alone.
Yeah.
I am the only person... I mean, the 78 Body Snatchers obviously being the best example of something like that. But, I mean, that's really terrifying to know that everybody else is... It's more than like I mean, you can just say it's a commentary on conformity or whatever, like the original. Yeah, it's the very easy thing, but what it really is truly, because it's not rebellion, it's survival when you're feeling that you literally can't escape something like that. I mean, it's more than, it's because you're no longer living, you're trying to survive in something. I mean, that's like the best part of, like we were talking about earlier with zombie films last episode. It's not, it's, people always go, well, it's the, like I said, Walking Dead does do it well, but I mean, it's the classic Night of the Living Dead example.
Yeah.
It's that the people that are living, the living are the living dead. It's the people, they're the problem. But I mean, I think that that's also the issue, is when people go, well, we're, we survived. And it's like, you survived, but you're not alive.
No, I mean, that goes to, like, something like, even like Child's Play, where, like, Charles Lee Ray, he's not alive. His body's dead. All he's trying to do is get into a husk that isn't a fucking plastic doll, And then, like, I mean, on that level, you can even look at something like The Stuff, which also, it's just, like, this gelatinous hive mind, like, it kind of kills its host the same way, like, the Night of the Creeps parasites do,
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of different ways to attack that topic, So hopefully, I think we maybe gave you some, like, oh, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, like I say, you can sit there and we can evaluate and discuss all these different franchises, but it's more about the idea, and it's one of those things like possession. People, instantly, like I said, most people have the idea of The Exorcist. They have the ideas visually, and then they put in things that aren't even possession, like a Damien, like the satanic films of the 70s. It's like, well, they weren't necessarily possessed. It was just a matter of,
it's just Damien's just a creature that looks like
a human. Yeah, it's just, it's, I don't know, and that's, I mean, sometimes, like I said, that works too. I mean, you could even, it's so many different directions you can go, but in the end, it is, why is possession such an important and integral part of horror film and fiction? It's because it is loss of control and the ultimate fear of the unknown, of what happens when that agency is absent. Yeah. So I mean, and I think what people find is that they believe that agency is absent. That's where evil truly is, like true evil. Yeah. Like not from the Judeo-Christian or Abrahamic ideal, but from a humanist or an essence, the kind of thing.
Yeah, like here's like a thought. Like, I haven't like pre-thought of this or anything, but it's like, I mean, if you look at something like Michael Myers, right? I mean, he's not possessed by evil. He's just empty. What's his, Loomis's idea of Myers is, because that's the ultimate question about the Myers mythology is what is Michael's motivation? Does he even have one? Like, why does he kill certain people and not kill others? And the 2018 why didn't he kill the baby? Because because he killed the kid. Yeah.
And it's like, that's when that was his first victim that you really saw on film or something like that. Like the kind of, death has come to your little town, know? It's like, that's what people, though, I'm not just going on my classic kid killing phase. I mean, I just, or jive. It's just a matter of, I really think that if something is truly evil, and that's the one thing I always bring up all the time when people go, I hate when animals get killed in movies. Oh, like when Michael Myers killed the dog in Halloween. Yeah. Everyone just seems to gloss over that one. I mean, it's like, of course you don't mind, when animals are killed. I mean, you do, but it's like, for some reason, it's the classic exceptionalism.
It does always make me laugh when Michael Myers killed that dog, but the T-1000 doesn't kill the dog in Terminator 2.
That's true.
It's like, okay, clearly that machine has some kind of moral sensor.
That he does.
But I don't know. The one thing I will say about, like, I just wanted to get into this one thing about Halloween is, like, you can look at it almost like, Loomis is a victim in that way because he's possessed by this knowledge or belief or feeling that Myers is, like, evil incarnate. And if you look at, if you have to go down the rabbit hole of that franchise, it just gets to, like, the point where he just becomes a madman,
Yeah.
the remake just didn't even like let that simmer. You know, the new Loomis instantly became a madman.
Yeah.
You know? So I mean, it's just like he's the Captain Ahab. You know, that white whale just drove him crazy.
The white mask whale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Ray Wise's character in Jeepers Creepers 2 or something.
Yeah. Well, it's also again a lot of these deep cut. The possession of people to be driven to revenge. I mean, possession, like I said, it doesn't have to be just that thing. It can be, so like I said, we splintered into multiple topics, which we always tend to do, but Did
Ray Wise have any Jeepers Creepers 2 pictures?
Yes, he did, actually. Oh. Yeah, he had mainly Reaper, Jeepers Creepers 2, and of course a lot of Twin Peaks. But he had a few other ones and stuff, like some lesser known roles. I was shocked. I got Doug Jones to sign. He actually had a Fear Itself still, which is my favorite Doug Jones performance from Skin and Bones. So that was very cool. I did not expect that. But he had his main table laid out, which at this time was a lot of like Star Trek and Shape of Water. But he also had a book you could look through, and it had 30 or 40 additional stills just packed away.
So many things.
He is. He's a guy who's had a career for so long. It's endless. There's a lot of people. That's one thing if I were ever to advise celebrities and stuff, which hopefully I will in Mad Monster capacity. But it's like, please bring your lesser known performances. Because it's always a lot of fun to see.
Yeah.
Sorry, we segue back to Mad Monster. We're always getting back to some of the older episodes, even though this is only our third episode. But
yeah, I think
it works. Good. It works. But I think definitely like for the audience, I'd love to hear what maybe some of your unconventional possession movies that you enjoy.
Right.
I'd like to hear what people think of something that maybe we didn't talk about.
I know. There's lots of stuff like Jennifer's Body.
Yeah, Jennifer's Body was one of the ones I was going to go into, just because me and Victor can't go too long without talking about Jennifer's Body on a podcast or any other discussion. But yeah, I mean, there's so much out there and stuff, and I mean, I'd actually like to hear some. I'd like to hear some older films of people, maybe something I haven't heard of, because there's lots I haven't. And then I'd like to hear some newer films, because I'd like to see somebody challenge it. Like, if you know something that's like an Autopsy of Jane Doe or something completely off the traditional rails, I'd love to hear it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good one. And then...
let us know if you're, enjoying these genre deconstructions, or if you'd like us to, just tackle individual movies, because we want to make it entertaining for you guys. We have lots of different directions you can take it in.
Yeah, I think it seems like everybody's enjoying it. I mean, I hope so, and I appreciate everybody who's been listening so far, and everyone who's subscribed. I think on the Instagram we're already up 100 people and stuff in a short amount of weeks, and we really appreciate everybody's been so supportive, and we've heard a lot of good feedback. And even if you don't, you got criticisms and stuff, we want to hear those too. We want to hear ways and that things you'd like to hear differently, or things, we're not yielding to anybody, but we like to hear what people think. Feedback is always good, no matter what. So we'll have Victor is going to be off for a bit, so we'll be back for a couple weeks, but he'll have a full SDCC. And you're going to see a lot of stuff on the site, because he's always filming and reviewing. So
we'll be uploading stuff as the show goes on.
Yep. So keep your eye up.
Keep your eyes open. So until next time, join us for Horror Cult. Always keep your eye open for the other podcasts or network. Ski Review. There'll be another episode of that this weekend. And you're doing a deep dive into Santa with muscles, so that'll be interesting. And until next time, I am Victor Moreno, along with Kirby Nelson.
That's much too vulgar to display a power cast.